Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill Midday. We're here Wednesday in the midday. We're going to do a midday run, baby. We're going to do a midday run today. We're running in the midday every day on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, me on things and stuff, and the Sean Yankee Show on Facebook. Hello, everyone. How are you today? I'm going to share this out a little bit. If you like me, share it out. If you don't, sit and watch and see if you like me, and then decide if you want to share it out. If you do, it'll be here. Share that thing out. You will love it. Everyone will love it. We'll all love it, and we'll all be great for it. So today is going to be Conspiracy Theories and Chill. I'm about to get my ugly mug off the camera here because I can see I am blurry as shit. So I'm not going to make you watch that, but I am going to make you watch this feed because there is good information for you here. There's good information for everyone here. I'm going to tag some people because we got to get the crew up in here. We're going to get all the people up in here today. Everybody we need is in here. We're going to get in here and we're going to get it done, baby. So it's Conspiracy Theories and Chill. I'm Sean, and you've been taking your last look at me. Get a good glimpse because I'm going away right now. So I am now the flower of life, and you will look at me and think of this monkey, this orangutan that is riding with my boy in that classic truck. If he says left turn, Clyde, that's your ass. That is your ass, baby. Because we got one fucking show to do. Oops, I used the F word. Please ignore that. That is bad language. I do not condone that kind of speech. Please don't block me, YouTube. I love you guys. You guys are fantastic. YouTube's the best. All right. So here we go. It's midday. It's Conspiracy Theories and Chill. But we got to do some little talking before people get here, right? We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're going to do Mel's Hole. We got to get into Mel's Hole. You got to go deep into Mel's Hole. And then we're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about World's Fairs. We're going to get into the World's Fairs, Tartaria, old world buildings. These things are beautiful. I have all around my house. I love these things. We're going to get into that. That's what we're doing today. We're going to listen to traffic outside my window, cars honking, things going on. It's a life. It's a world. It's happening right now. And then we're going to end with Satan's side of the Bible. You want to know what Satan thinks? We're going to find out at the end of today's show. I got all that for you and more, memes and everything else. On today's show, today we're doing that. That's us today, me and you, Han Solo, everybody. This lady up here, over there. This meme represents my wife. My wife is a thug. She is awesome. I met her online. She lived in Connecticut. I can't talk today. Forgive me. Let me try that again. My wife lived in Connecticut, and I moved here from Missouri. I took a 1,200-mile flight for someone I knew about 2 months. Married her like 2 months later to the day. And we've been married a year, June 30th. We're coming up on our year anniversary. We've been thugging for almost a year already, over a year. I got here April 29th. So we are past our year anniversary of setting eyes on each other in human form and physical form. But we met online about 2 months before that. Introduced by a friend of us, a federal agent. He introduced us. And now we're just living the dream. Everybody thought we would fail. We should have failed like 60 times. She's a thug. And, she is not single anymore. She's mine. I want to know what y'all would name this band. If this was a super group, if this group of oligarchs and false prophets and fake leaders was a band, a big super group, what would the name be? I'm thinking the Bloody Wallets. Hey, Dion, I think Bloody Wallets is a really good name for this band. If I was going to make a super group, I would have Michael Obama out front singing. Hillary's got to be drums. And then George W. Bush is keyboards. And Daddy Bush is maracas. Bill Clinton plays sax, of course. And then Barack Obama just handles Michael's mic cord. Just holds it there for him. And then adjusts his mic stand when needed. That's Barack's job in the band. And I call him the Bloody Wallets. What do you call this band? It's a group of evil people. I think they do have bloody wallets, so I think it fits. But, I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I'm going to keep coming back on camera because I feel like that bothers people. I am a human being. I'm right here. Hello. Hi, human being. Look at me. I'm going to go back off camera because I'm blurry as shit, and I don't know why y'all need to see that. So I'm the flower of life again, but I am really here. I'm a real dude named Sean, and y'all are watching Conspiracy Theories and Chill Midday. Right now, we're trying to figure out what to name this band. This is a band here. They're putting together a band. I didn't know if you knew that. And I think they should be called the bloody wallets, but they could be called lots of things. The demonics, there's all kinds of things. Depends on what kind of music they're going to play, really. That kind of depends. This is something I've been wanting to learn about. And again, we're just bullshitting while we give people time to get in here. We got a lot of things to do. We're going to watch Mel's Hole. We're going to go into the world's fairs, and we're going to see Satan's side of the Bible. All that's coming up on today's Midday Conspiracy Theories and Chill. We're just going to bullshit for like 10, 15 minutes, give people time to get in here. I never knew the difference between cuts of meat. Are y'all mad at me? Is anybody mad at me? Now I do. I got this handy little guide, and I love sirloin and filet. Ribeye, I've heard, is the most tender, but it looks fatty, doesn't it? Look at all the fat in that. Porterhouse looks amazing. New York strip and T-bone. New York strip probably the best. I don't know. Sirloin, which one's the best? What do you like? I usually get sirloin or ribeye, but I think I should get filet or New York strip. Maybe a T-bone, because I've heard the bone is better. Is that true? Let me know. I need to know more about steak, because me and Baby, sometimes we go out, me and Baby Doll, we go out and then we go to steak dinner. And I don't never know what to order. I never did. I just got whatever Dad put in front of me. You know what I mean? If we got steak, I just felt lucky. I didn't worry about what kind it was. It's the cow kind, the good kind. But now we pick our kind. You get down there and they're like, what kind of meat would you want? And I'm like, meat, steak? I want steak, good steak. Put it on a plate, put it in front of me. Give me a glass of beer and a salad. I'm going to tear it up. Give me what my food eats and my food. And then a beer to go with it. And potato. That's what I want. But now I think I want a New York strip or a filet, maybe a T-bone. Or this porterhouse looks really good, but that looks like one of those 96-ounce steaks, It's probably one of those really big ones. But like I said, about 10 minutes. Well, no, let's say 5 more minutes, and we're going to get into these videos. The first one we're going to watch is Mel's Hole. If you've never been down Mel's Hole, it's this hole that leads to eternity. It's a bottomless pit. I forget where it's at, but it's blocked out on Google Earth. You can't even look at this area. It's blacked out where it was. I forget the name of the state, but it's in the United States. This guy first called into Art Bell long time ago. Many people have gone looking for Mel's Hole, and no one seems to be able to find it. We're going to get into Mel's Hole right now in just a minute, in about 4 minutes, actually. But I got a few more things I want to show you. We did a video today for motivation. Look for that. It was Push Forward, Wednesday Motivation. Check that out. That's new today. I'm going to be doing that once a week. We're also going to be doing these middays about once a week. And then the night show, the nightly Conspiracy Theories and Chill show, is Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be our schedule moving forward. We're playing around with things right now, but it's going to get more sturdy, more stable. There's going to be a midday, a motivation, and a regular show every week. 3 shows. It'll be 3 feeds. And it won't be this annoying anymore, guys. I'm sorry I've been bombarding you. I'm trying to figure out what studio I'm going to use, what format's going to be, and what channels we're going to use for different things. So that's what we're doing. We're narrowing it down. Feel free to take part. I want to hear from you. Take part in the comments. Even if you're here late, there is no wrong time, and you are never late to one of these feeds. Most of our views come after the fact. So whenever you get here, take part. I do want to hear from you. I am excited to hear what you have to say. In just a second, I'm going to bring up Mel's Hole, like I said, but we'll get into Mel's Hole. We're going to dive into Mel's Hole, and that's what we're going to do. The story of Mel's Hole is coming up next in just a few minutes, but I just want to let you know a few things first. This is the flower of life. Have you ever looked at this shape before? You know anything about this shape? This shape has sacred geometry throughout. It's got a lot of different things in it. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of different geometrical shapes inside of it, many. And then the gaps inside of them, as Terrence Howard was getting into, there's interesting negative space in there too. It's amazing. This is the key to everything almost. It's one of the oldest symbols, sacred geometry symbols there are. And I love it. There's actually a necklace of this that I want, pendant rather, that I want, that repels radio waves and Wi-Fi signals and things like that. I want that. I need that in my life. And I bet you it's expensive. But if I find out it's affordable, it is going on my neck for sure. Because I need that in my life. Everybody does. I'm going to ask you one more question, and this is for the comments later. And, just let me know what you think or what your version is. But how many channels did you have on your TV at your house as a kid? I remember my very first that I can remember, the oldest I can remember, only had 3. And I don't know if that's because 3 only worked or what. But there was the video game channel where we could play our video games, and then 2 other channels came in clear. Channel 11 and Channel 3. And Channel 3 was one my parents always watched. They had like news and stuff. I don't know what it was. I think it was NBC because Saturday. No, it was NBC because sometimes I would get to watch Saturday Night Live, and then I was the remote. I was to get them to change the channel. Then they got better TVs. They got the big console one, and then they got smaller and smaller, and then they started sitting on top of the big console one. You remember that? The console one ended up being a table with a TV in it that no one uses forever, and then we finally got rid of those, and now we have TVs that are 80 inches and hang on the wall. We've come a long way television-wise, but yeah, I had two working channels and a video game channel, and my first video game was that Atari 2600. What was your first video game? I think we've given enough time, so we are going to start. The first video today is going to be Mel's Hole, like I said, and we are ready to get going with that. So I'm going to get ready to begin, and I hit play in just a second on Mel's Hole. I'm going to sit here, watch it with you, and then afterwards, I'm going to be back here, and we will break down questions and any comments about Mel's Hole. And then the video after that is going to be the truth about the World's Fairs. So we're going to talk about Mel's Hole, and then we're going to do World's Fairs after that. I cannot talk today. And I'm Sean, and let's get started with Mel's Hole. Near the Monastache Ridge in Washington on Melwater's property, there exists a hole in the ground that seems to have no bottom. For as long as anyone can remember, they have been throwing their trash and junk down this hole, but it never fills up. Furniture, tires, large appliances, you name it. Mel and his neighbors have thrown it down this hole, but no sign of it even starting to fill. Mel even claimed once they put a refrigerator down it, but never heard it crash to the bottom. He says he has measured the hole to a depth of 15 miles. Animals are terrified of this hole and won't go near it. It caused radios to pick up strange signals, and a cold, solid black light was said to periodically emanate from it. So what is Mel's Hole? Did Mel Waters find a truly bottomless pit on his property? Is the hole an entrance to the underworld? Or is Mel's Hole a portal to another dimension? Well, tonight on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to try to get to the bottom of Mel's Hole. In February of 1997, Mel Waters faxed the Coast to Coast radio show with Art Bell. Dear Art, I'm writing to you to see if I could get some help from you or your vast listening audience. I live in rural eastern Washington near Monastache Ridge. On our property, there is a hole. Like the previous owners and the owners before them, we've been throwing our trash into the hole. Apparently, the hole has been there as long as anyone can remember. At first, I thought it was an ancient well. Anyway, the hole is 9 feet 9 inches in diameter. There is a stone retaining wall around it, and we put a steel door on top to keep anyone from falling into it. As I said earlier, people have been throwing their trash into the well for decades. Furniture, household trash, dead cows, building debris, you name it. The thing is, I noticed the hole never filled up. So I got curious, actually obsessed, and began trying to measure the depth of the hole. I emptied 3 fishing reels of about 1,500 yards of monofilament trying to determine the depth. Soon, I was buying fishing line in bulk. So far, I've sunk about 80,000 feet of line into the hole without reaching bottom. My wife works at a local university with a geology department. We hope to get some professional scholarly help in determining the depth of the hole. As far as I can tell, there's nothing else particularly strange about it except for 2 other things. Dogs refuse to go within 100 feet of the hole, and birds won't sit on the retaining wall or metal door. Another strange thing is there's no echo when you yell into the hole. Indeed, I've never heard anything hit bottom when we tossed it in. We once tossed in an old refrigerator and we never heard it hit the bottom. No crash, splash, or crunch. I hope your listeners can help with possible explanations. I'm wondering if this, based on my measurements thus far, might be the deepest hole on Earth. Signed, Mel Waters. After reading this fax, Art called Mel and got some more of the story.
When did you discover this hole?
Well, the hole has always been there. We've been out there for a couple of years now, and the hole has been there since we've been there. It's been there since the previous owner was there, and the previous owner there was quite elderly, and I'd say he was there for a good 30, 40 years before we moved in.
Wow.
And then,
And so there's been a thing of throwing stuff down this hole for a
oh yeah,
long
it's
time.
been going on, you know, for as long as the hole has been there, I assume. You know, we just take all, you know, we take all of our trash, rubbish, anything we have that we have to get rid of, we take it, throw it in the hole. Everyone's throwing their stuff in the hole. The people from around there throw all the stuff in the hole. I mean, it's just been going on for a long time. Well, I got to thinking one day, how come this hole is not filling up? It must be an awfully deep hole.
That's a good thing to consider, sure, as you throw stuff in it for decades, literally.
And so, I used to be well, I would say pretty close to a professional shark fisherman. So I had a couple of huge fishing reels, went out there and started letting the line down. I figure after one...
Did you weight the line?
Oh, yeah. There's, in fact, the original line is still down there. I have just been adding to the line and keeping track of how much line I have used. So I've not reeled it in.
How much weight is on it?
There's a 1 pound weight at the bottom of it.
1 pound weight, all
1
right.
pound weight. It's a triangular 1 pound weight.
Okay.
And so that's at the bottom of it at first.
So in other words, it would go down kind of like a plumb bob.
Exactly. In fact, I have it rigged across the center of it there, and it goes straight down from the center there. And occasionally I try to move the line there. When you're moving that much line, you really can't do a whole lot with it. But it seems to, there seems to be, it's not resting against anything at this point here, and it continues to go down freely. And so when I was out there earlier, I'd let out a little bit more line. And
so you actually went out there tonight after I read this?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Well, it's not too bad out here right now. It's only about 25 degrees, so it's not too cold.
Have you ever heard anything coming from any sounds or anything?
Well, the normal thing to do is kind of like yell into it there, to see an echo. And I've never heard an echo come out of that thing.
No echo
at all. That's one of the first things I noticed about it. As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing, and I went back to the Suburban and hung out over there. So it was kind of if I try to bring them there on a leash, they'll just dig their feet in. They do not want to go anywhere near the hole.
Mel described the hole on his first call to Art in more detail. It had a 3-foot stone retaining wall surrounding it, and the stone went down 15 feet. He claimed that the hole had no echo and that he had measured its depth to 80,000 feet, or 15 miles. The weirdest thing Mel claimed was that a neighbor had thrown a dead dog in the hole, and the dog had come back from the dead. Mel also said that they had experimented with a radio near the hole, and that it got very staticky near it, and then he picked up strange older music, and when he turned the dial, he got a baseball game that he finds out was played 30 years ago. So what was Mel's hole? After this call to Art Bell's radio show, things took a turn for the worse for Mel. Soon after the first call, Mel sent in a second fax. Art, you're receiving this fax simultaneously with the fax I attempted to send you earlier today. Much has developed since the first fax. I'll try to explain as rationally as possible what has transpired since my earlier fax. Around 1 p.m., I drove to Yakima to shop at the Costco. On my way back, I decided to stop at the property. When I go there, my access road was blocked by military personnel that were armed. I noticed that several pieces of yellow gear had entered and exited my property based on the direction of their tread. I asked one of the guards, "What's going on?" He said there was a plane crash on the property. I said, "Well, that's strange. There's no smoke. I don't see any in the distance." He asked who I was, and I let him know I owned the property. I then asked to talk to the officer in charge. A non-uniformed man came up to my Suburban and let me know that I won't have access to my property until the crash has been completely investigated. I mentioned the yellow smoke and that they were on my property, and I was told by this man that it's not necessarily my property, and that it would be very easy to find a drug lab on my property. Well, I got the drift. I asked if I could leave, and he said, "Sure, don't come back until we contact you." I asked if he wanted a way to contact me. He said they know how to contact me. I said, "I suppose you don't want me to talk to anybody about this." And he said nobody would believe it anyway. And that's about it for now. Oh, I talked to one of my neighbors earlier today, and he told me something very interesting. He said that some time ago he was driving to the hole at night and thought he saw the most bizarre thing. He said he saw a beam of solid black coming out of the then uncovered hole. I said, "What do you mean?" He said he saw something blacker than black coming out of the hole like a searchlight reaching into the sky as far as he could see. So after calling into Art Bell's show, the military had confiscated Mel's property.
After the show on Friday night, I went out there and in the evening and noticed there were some helicopter activity around the property. There was further helicopter activity the next day. And so I figured that clearly somebody out there listens to your program.
All right.
And I think...
John, I'm really sorry I brought this on for you. I didn't... It certainly wasn't intentional.
Well, when we talked yesterday, you felt that probably the best thing to do is to be public in this matter. And
That's right. Your best protection is to be public, Mel.
Mel Waters' property was seized. He was offered $3 million a year to leave the country and never come back. The whole area was now under military control, and Mel could not access his property. A no-fly zone was imposed. Even TerraServer, a mapping site before Google Maps, showed a complete blackout of the area. Mel took the money and relocated to Australia, but since he was missing his family, he came back 2 years later. He wasn't supposed to do this. While he was in the States, he agreed to go back on Art Bell's show. But while on a bus, the day he's supposed to go back on the show, there is an altercation and the passengers are moved to another bus. At this point, Mel blacks out and wakes up in San Francisco 12 days later. He wakes up in an alley with no wallet, and he tastes blood in his mouth and discovers his back teeth are missing. Legal action was then taken against Mel for illegal construction on his property. The power lines, paved roads, and buildings the government had constructed in the 2 years they occupied it were all built without permits. And Mel lost everything. His bank account was empty. Now, officially, Mel's hole has never been found, but Mel did contact Art Bell again. He said he was contacted by a Native American tribe based in Nevada to analyze yet another bottomless hole. Now, this hole was a little different in appearance compared to Mel's hole. It had a metal collar surrounding the 9 feet wide opening instead of stone, and this hole was there for as long as the people were. Mel observed that the metal made no sound. Even when hit by a tool, there was complete silence. He went on to say that the Basques decided to send a sheep down the well. When the crate was taken up, the sheep was dead. The Basques decided to cut it open, and inside the sheep's body they found a strange creature that they called a magic seal. The seal crawled away from the men into the hole where it stared back at them for a while before jumping in. Then the unbelievable happened. Before coming to Nevada, Mel had been diagnosed with cancer and had only 6 months to live. But after this encounter with the seal, he was cancer-free. Now, this was the last time Mel addressed the story, and after that, he vanished. Was Mel's hole a hoax? Or did Mel discover something on his property that the government wanted, and they have made it seem as it is a hoax to cover it up? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time, right? All right, guys, that was Mel's hole. And what do you think? First off, Mel's hole is deep as fuck. Come on. 15 miles deep, the guy had stopped measuring it with a 1 pound weight. I'm assuming he had it centered over the middle and was feeding it down, because otherwise, wouldn't it just rest on something and you just keep feeding string and your weight actually stopped? Is he testing to see that thing's still free flying? 15 miles down? You know, the farthest we've ever drilled is like 4. I'm going to do a 2-minute rant on Mel's hole before we get started with anything else, because I'm just going to get my thoughts out. 15 miles deep, Mel's hole. That's crazy. How can a hole be 15 miles deep like that? You know? And what's down there? What's the end? Does it go through to the other side? Is there a Mel's hole in China that comes out the other end and a 1 pound weight's going to come swinging out of it one day? How could this be? What is that? What is going on with that? It's so weird. Art Bell's show got so many weird callers, and this dude kind of went away and just stopped calling. That's what happens to all callers on our bus show. But this one, though, you can look it up on Google where that was in that town, and there's a blacked out area. What is there? And why did the military take over his farmland right after he went on our show if there's no hole? And why black it out on Google Earth? It doesn't make any sense. So there's got to be something there. It feels to me like there is anyway. So Mel's hole is deep as fudge, I said. Yes, it is. It is Sean Yankee Show. The Mel's hole is very deep, more than 15 miles. And that's the last time it was measured. Is it a portal, though? Is the weight like in another dimension, like just kind of dangling around in empty space? It could be anything. It really could. But like I said, comment and share everywhere. Do that for me. Just get this out and comment, take part, because we're not getting many viewers during the live, but I'm not going to let that discourage me. We gotta stick tight. We gotta hang tight because we're doing new things. I've been streaming a lot. I'm sure you're sick of me, but I'm making it interesting. So if you're stopping by, I'm giving you something you can enjoy, and we're having a good time, good conversation. If you're here and you want to talk, please talk, comment. I'm looking for comments. I'm looking to talk to you. So, but if you don't, I can handle it. I can get through this on our own. We got the World's Fairs coming up. I love those. Do you like old buildings? Just these old, beautiful buildings that we don't build anymore. They have so many here in Connecticut, and I just go around looking at them all day long. These beautiful red brick and stone masonry buildings. They're amazing. We're going to get into that in a minute with the World's Fairs videos because they claim they did these big, beautiful World's Fairs all over the country during a certain period of time in like the 20s or whatever. I don't remember when, or before that even. And they had these extravagant structures, just like these buildings that are around today, but they were all like painted white. And most were torn down right after the World's Fairs. They called them temporary. Said they built them in like 6 months. It's ridiculous. It's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Real quick, I want to get into a health thing. This is pretty cool, and I can get behind this. So science is coming around to some real medicine here. And they have decided that staring at boobs may actually give men longer lives. So, baby, get them titties out. I mean, breastises. I didn't say that, YouTube. I did not say that. That's a bad word. Breastises. Get those out, baby, and just keep them out. Let them breathe the nice air around the house because I want to live longer to hang out with you more and see more of those. So, girls, do your man a favor and let them hit the breeze. You know what I mean? When you get home, take them shirts off and free them shims. It's really hard to watch your mouth, YouTube. People don't talk like that. Why can't people just talk the way they talk? If you don't like cussing and you don't like certain words, why can't you just like not watch my stream? Why do you have to pull my channels and stuff? Why do you have to complain? But if you don't like, boobs, breastises, women breastises, human women breastises, they give longer lifespans to men. They save lives, basically. And what's wrong with that? What could be wrong with that? And if that's wrong, dude, I don't want to be right. I'm telling you that right now. But now we're going to do the World's Fair video in just a second. The truth behind it. The truth behind the World's Fairs. And there's a lot of good truth there. We're going to get into that in just a moment. But what is on your mind? Please tell me. There's one person here. Say hi. Please tell me. Is that you, Dion? Say hi again. Tell me what time it is where you're at. Something. Tell me if you've seen this movie, Any Which Way But Loose. What's the original name of it? Do you know what the original title was going to be? What the actual theater title was? It's changed a little over time in TV viewing. So what was the original name of this movie? Let me know in the comments. And we're going to get into the World's Fair video right now. This is about the World's Fairs and what's going on with them. Specifically, the early World's Fairs. I'm very curious about them. They're very interesting. So let's start this video off, and I'll be right back with you here on Conspiracy Theories and Chill Midday. And later on, we're going to get Satan's side of the Bible, what Satan's story is on the Bible. According to Wikipedia, a World's Fair is a large international exhibition designed to showcase achievements of nations. These exhibitions vary in character and are held in different parts of the world at a specific site for a period of time. ranging usually from 3 to 6 months. But what if that is just what we're being told in order to hide the true history of humanity and remove and reclaim the landmarks of an entire civilization that actually dwelled and thrived in these specific locations long ago? Well, tonight on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to look at some of the early World's Fairs and see what, if anything, they have in common, what they might have really represented or even took place to hide, and whether we're being told the truth about these events at all. Let's start by looking at the world's first World Fair in 1851, which was by far the biggest event of the 19th century and was held inside one spectacular and historically out-of-place building. The Crystal Palace that had sprung up in one of London's largest public spaces. Glittering in the sunlight, it was truly a sight to behold. The first prefabricated building of its kind. The enormous glass house incorporated 300,000 sheets of glass in the largest size then ever made. Held in position with some 24 miles of patent guttering. In just 9 months, this magnificent building had become a shining landmark on the capital skyline. The completed building was a sight to behold. 562 meters long, 124 meters wide, and towering 30 meters high over Hyde Park. That's about 10 stories high. Most importantly, this colossal feat of engineering was finished on time. This amazing structure was supposedly built in 9 months with 19th century technology. And you could tell me it took 3 times as long to construct, and I'd still give you heavy side-eye. Just look at the intricacy and detail, and then imagine this being done with 19th century technology and horses and buggies. How did they manufacture, move, and assemble this structure at all, much less in just 9 short months? What if they didn't? What if it was actually always there? What if the World's Fairs were used as an excuse to demolish ancient architectural heritage left over from a hidden advanced society? These World's Fairs are famous for unexplained out-of-time architecture. These massive structures are all said to have been built rapidly for the purpose of these World's Fairs and then demolished afterwards. Why would they do that? Why create such beautiful buildings just to demolish them? And what inspired these creations that all seem to come from the same society, style, and time period? For more comparison, let's move ahead a bit in time to the World's Fair of 1893 in Chicago. You were told that the city of Chicago once held the World's Columbian Exhibition to publicly celebrate Columbus discovering America. The year of it was 1893, and the Great Economic Panic was already underway. But some 27 million people, a number equal to half of the entire United States population at the time, is said to have arrived from around the world to behold 200 newly erected buildings on 600 acres of reclaimed swamp, all of which had come to fruition within 2 years of its initial planning. All of this great white city was said to be built in just 2 years. The official story is that the Great White City was built akin to a movie set. Facades were made not of stone, we are told, but a mixture of plaster, cement, and a jute fiber called staff, all of which was then painted white in order to give the Chicagoan Camelot its gleam. Apparently, 27 million people were said to have braved the frontier by boat, buggy, and train to converge upon Chicago in order to be wowed by a neoclassical city built of glue and popsicle sticks that was only made to look like the real thing. And we are expected to believe that developers and exhibitors spent 2 years building and millions upon millions of dollars investing in, which they would then just turn around and destroy. And there are absolutely no blueprints for the White City's construction, and documentation on the construction is thin. Except for a few rinky-dink shacks resembling put-up props, it doesn't seem that anything was really built here at all. And then they just destroyed it? Now let's look at the World's Fair of 1878 held in Paris, France. Just look at these buildings, the detail of them, the size, and how out of place in time they seem. Again, most of these structures were said to be built in impossibly short amounts of time, and money seemed to be no issue or concern. And again, you're seeing the same architectural and landscaping styles used. These World's Fair buildings all seem to share many characteristics. Fortunes were said to have been spent constructing all of this just for the fair, just to display it for a short time, and then demolish it. Now let's go ahead a little further to the U.S. In April 1904. St. Louis, Missouri opened its doors to the world for what was officially called the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, but was widely known as the St. Louis World's Fair. Millions of dollars had again been spent to build the 1,200-acre fairgrounds and its nearly 1,500 buildings, a huge scale that ended up delaying the opening by a year. During the 8 months the fair stayed open, it's said that nearly 20 million people paid a visit. Now on display were marvels of technology, agriculture, art, and history, and there were amusement rides and entertainment to be found in a section called the Pike. The fair introduced a huge audience to some relatively new inventions, which was common of these fairs, such as private automobiles, outdoor electric lighting, and the X-ray machine. And again, after the fair closed, nearly all of its structures were demolished within a short period of time. All of these impressive structures built for one event in the middle of the country? Why? Why build these beautiful structures complete inside and out? You could go into these buildings. They were real buildings. Why go to all of that trouble? Just look at the intricacy and detail of these structures. Consider then the time periods that we are discussing and the means that they would have had to construct them at the time, not to mention the massive expense. $1 million back then is like saying billions today. Why would so much money be invested into such extravagance just to demolish it afterwards in nearly every instance? These buildings are pieces of art. They are breathtaking, to say the least. All the way back to the very first World's Fair so far, they share this particular trait of unexplained and seemingly out of time and place structures. And in all instances, these beautifully detailed pieces of art were destroyed soon after the fairs ended. But why do these structures from different places and time periods seem to match each other so closely? Is it possible that all these different World's Fairs architecture seems to match each other for a particular reason? What if these structures were already there, and these early World Fairs were to explain these unexplainable and amazing pieces of architecture to the masses, and at the same time erase the existence of a previous advanced civilization? What if all these structures and the out-of-place structures that match these that stand to this day, what if all of these were already here? What if the World's Fairs were really held to explain away true human history in order to rewrite their own? To believe that these were all just put together as events and that such extravagance and money was just thrown around to make the impossible real is just insanity, in my opinion. No, I think it's much more likely that these structures already existed long before we settled in these lands, from a civilization whose history is being hidden from us. This has been a look into the truth of the early World's Fairs from Conspiracy Theories and Chill. And I'm sure we will be revisiting this topic very soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon with a brand new topic. All right, guys, that was the World's Fair video. And that was just a really short video. I made a short video on that because I really feel like there's more to talk about. So let's put 2 minutes on the clock and I'm going to rant about the World's Fairs and how ridiculous it is that these were temporary events. And everybody knows that they weren't temporary events. Everybody knows that. You're not fooling anyone. We all know that these World's Fairs were to cover up history. They were just exactly what it says here. Hack jobs to hide history, to destroy these buildings. They would claim to build these cities. The White City, what they say, 6 months to a year it took to build it. And then they run the fair for 3 to 6 months. People from all around the country come to this fair. And how did they get there, right? How did all these people get there? Everybody's horse and buggy. It takes forever to get across the country, but they come all the way to Chicago from miles around, all over the world to see this stuff. What are you talking about? And then the babies. Hold on. 2 minutes on the clock. The babies. They had these babies at these World's Fairs all the time. They had incubator shows, and they would have tons of babies, just hundreds of babies in incubators. And what are they doing with these babies? Where do these babies come from? Another interesting story we need to get into one day is the orphan trains around the same time. All these orphanages popping up and all these trains full of orphans. Where are these babies coming from? Is it from these little incubators? I don't know. You know, lots of tech was revealed at the World's Fairs. That particular White City that you saw earlier in the video, Tesla had wired that for electricity in what, 1904? It's wired for electricity, lit up like a candle at night, the entire place. You could go in every building and they claim they built this shit in 6 months. They just whitewashed it. They painted all the buildings white and then tore it down after. And why did they tear it down? Like, why can't we have that beautiful stuff to this day? The Capitol building downtown is one of these buildings, and it is gorgeous. It's still there, though. It looks completely out of place, but it's still there. They left them sprinkled all around the country. What is that? Just to mock us because we don't build anything beautiful anymore? We don't have nice things, so they want to show us that the old world did? Well, the old world had a lot of things that we don't have now. And, you know, there could be reasons for that, and there probably is reasons for that, but we just kind of blew it, and God couldn't share cool things with us anymore. But is that what it is? That this is like some kind of tech and hidden tech, and with this history would give us knowledge that would make us like that again? So they have to keep it from us so we can't get that powerful again? Is that maybe what it is? So this World's Fair stuff and all these old world buildings, they served purposes that if we were to get a hold of it, they think we would run mad with power? Or is it that they wouldn't be able to keep their power? I think it's more that than anything, you know. It usually is that. So I think these are lies. They would happen every couple of years, and they would be huge like that. And then there would be 100 new inventions that come out that we still use today. They have moving sidewalks, electrified cities, cars, motors, engines. Tesla invented like 150 to 200 of his inventions at World's Fairs, presented them anyway. It's ridiculous, the whole thing. But we've had very little engagement today. I was going to talk for a little longer, but we're going to get right into the story here. Satan's side of the Bible is the last thing we're going to do today. And I thought we could get into that. That should be interesting. So we're going to watch that video, and then we're going to wrap up. This has been Midday Conspiracies with Conspiracy Theories and Chill. We're going to do this probably Wednesdays, midday, if it works out. One day during the week. I don't have a set schedule. So one day during the week, you'll get a midday. One day during the week, you'll get a motivational morning, which we had today. We had it today and a midday. Well, you got 2 things today. And then every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to debut me and my wife's new podcast, Cracking the Code. It's going to debut in a few weeks. We'll probably have some practice feeds before then because I got to get us a table and I got to get her a mic. Once we got it all set up, we're going to start that podcast, Cracking the Code. It's going to be pretty neat. I'm going to get a better camera and stuff before then. I know it looks like crap. That's why, hence the flower of life. And maybe that's why no one's here. But it doesn't matter that no one's here. And I'll be fine and you're fine. And we're going to watch this video. This is Satan's side of the Bible. And it's interesting. I've seen it, and it's an interesting take. Let's check this out.
Centuries, the devil has been the laughingstock of Christians. We've boiled him down to a mindless, raging being, creating chaos just for the sake of chaos. But have we ever considered Satan as an actual character in the biblical story? A character with actual emotions, realistic motivations, and specific goals? A character who does nothing by accident and thinks through his every move. A character who had a real chance at changing the direction of human history forever. Have we ever asked the question, why did Satan really rebel from God? Why does he hate humanity so much? And what was his unique connection to Jesus? I mean, all the strongest villains in our favourite movies have goals and morals they believe to be right. So why would the ultimate villain be evil just for the sake of evil? And what does the Bible actually say about Satan? Throughout the whole Bible, we encounter glimpses of Satan's personality, fragments that hint at a more complex motivation. By putting all the pieces together, we get convincing answers to these tough questions, revealing a character with far more understandable objectives. The story I'm about to tell you deepens the entire biblical narrative, including all the major characters, and it starts in a time before humans. Many eons ago, God created a heavenly species, glorious angelic beings who worship around the throne of their Creator. But among the worshippers, God anointed one for a special purpose. Described as a signet of perfection and blameless in his ways, he was covered with many precious gemstones and was exalted to a special place in heaven. God himself chose this angel to be a guardian cherub, a morning star shining bright in all his splendor in the full presence of God. His name was Lucifer, meaning bearer of light. Despite his high position, he believed he was deserving of more. He wanted to exalt himself above his angelic brethren and become like the Most High. Although ambitious, Lucifer served his creator blamelessly until God made a decision that would change everything. He decided to create again. The angels marveled at God's creation of light and of the stars. They sang praises as he created plant life and the land in which it would grow. They rejoiced as they watched him form the beasts of the field, the fish of the sea, and the birds of the sky. Everything he created was good. But on the sixth day, God made his most controversial decision, creating mankind. At this point, God says to himself a phrase that Lucifer never expected he would hear. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. This creation was special, uniquely loved and appreciated by God, and yet they seemed so feeble and vulnerable. What exactly made this creation so special? Well, Lucifer was soon to find out, because God had a vision. A plan that would cause Lucifer to question everything. A plan to crown this pathetic little race of creatures with glory and honor. To bring them near to God. To establish them as God's own possession. To receive new, perfect bodies. To become heirs to his kingdom. To inherit eternal life, spiritual rewards, and dominion in heaven. And most critically, a plan in which they would become like the Most High. There was abundant rejoicing at the creation of the world in heaven, but Lucifer felt a growing resentment towards God's new love. Why would God create an entirely new species to worship when Lucifer and the angels had been doing it perfectly their entire lives? But to Lucifer's growing unease, there was even more to God's exaltation of humanity. He planned on giving the world to come, not to the angels, but to the humans. He planned to send the angels to the humans as servants. And ultimately, his new species would have authority to judge Lucifer and his brethren. God's ultimate creation wasn't the angels after all. It was these pathetic little animals. Lucifer was an angel brimming with confidence. He assumed that if God were to bless his creation, he would be the first. To him, angels were the supreme beings, and described as the morning star, he was the cream of the crop. He adored himself, and having humanity elevated above him was incredibly unfair. This is when Lucifer came up with a plan. a plan to prove to God and the angels that God was making a mistake. Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden, and Lucifer identified weaknesses that could be exploited. The tree of knowledge of good and evil gave him an opportunity to strike. And with a simple question and a simple lie, Lucifer had successfully triggered the fall of humanity. He demonstrated to all the heavenly hosts and God himself just how easy it was to lead these creatures astray. This was the first step in Lucifer's vengeful vision. His objective was simple: to prove that the human race was incapable of fulfilling God's perfect design for them, to prove that humans weren't worthy of inheriting eternal life or inheriting God's creation, and ultimately, to get God to annihilate humanity and bless the angels instead. After the fall of man, God found wickedness in the heart of Lucifer, and he was cast out from heaven. He lost his status and his wisdom was corrupted, but he wasn't alone. Because God was so intent on exalting humanity, and Lucifer had just proven how easily they were deceived, many of his angelic brothers abandoned their heavenly posts as well and joined the rebellion. At that time, a third of the angels were convinced and deserted their creator. This is the moment when Lucifer, the guardian cherub, died. And Satan, the adversary of mankind, was born. With this new name came a new role. He would accuse mankind day and night, accusing them of sinning and failing to live up to the image of God. Satan knew that if humanity were to succumb to sin, God's justice would guarantee their destruction, proving that the blessing should have remained with the angels all along, and ultimately, that Satan was right. But at the fall of mankind, God had an unexpected response. Once Adam and Eve ate of the forbidden fruit, they became sinners before God. They were ashamed of their nakedness and decided to run away and hide. But instead of destroying them for their betrayal, God sought them out. He created clothing to cover them and performed the first sacrifice. At humanity's lowest moment, God stood by their side. But Satan now had an effective argument to level against God. God's justice had been compromised in his gracious response to humanity's rebellion, and eventually, he would have to destroy them. The damage was done. Satan would embody his dual title as tempter and accuser, tempting the offspring of Eve to sin and accusing them of being failures when they did. This was his life's work, to ensure not a single human could live up to God's glorious design. And Satan's successful sabotage continued on and on throughout the generations. God saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. God regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So he flooded the world, killing every single human. Satan had achieved the first part of his objective, but God's mercy got in the way. Yet again, God had shown undeserved mercy to humanity, and yet again, he relented from executing his justice by rightfully destroying them. Satan knew that if he kept up the efforts, someday soon God would have to annihilate humanity, until a certain man named Job offered a glimpse of hope for all of mankind. About 400 years after the global flood, all the angels came to present themselves before God, and Satan was among them. The angels listened in anticipation as God and Satan made a wager of cosmic significance. You see, before this conversation, Satan was roaming the earth, tempting the offspring of Eve to sin and accusing them of being failures. But there arose one man who Satan seemed to be ignoring. His name was Job, a man who was blameless and upright. Known as the greatest man of the East, Job would regularly sacrifice offerings just in case any of his children cursed God in their hearts. He was a man who truly sought to live a righteous life, a man who seemed to be upholding God's image better than many before him. But Satan disputed the heart behind Job's righteousness. He was convinced that Job's faith was in the blessings God had given him rather than in God himself. He stated that if God were to remove the blessings from Job, he would surely curse him to his face. God, willing to test his faith, agreed, and from that moment, Job fell into the hands of the devil. All his material possessions were destroyed, and all of his family and servants, except for his wife, were killed in tragic circumstances. But instead of running from God or cursing him like his ancestors, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. But there was one more thing Satan had yet to do. One last trick up his sleeve. The angels gathered once more in God's presence, and God questioned Satan once more. He reminded Satan that his efforts against Job had proven fruitless. This wasn't good for Satan, because if this human could resist his allure, he would be forced to admit that God was right and would be made a fool of before all of the heavenly hosts. So he snapped back at God and challenged his mercy again. "Strike his flesh and bones," he said. "Surely then he will curse you to your face." God once again agreed, but made it clear that Satan wasn't to take Job's life in the process. Job was covered from head to toe in blistering sores. His situation got worse and worse, but through it all, Job never cursed his Lord. For the first time in human record, one of Satan's accusations fell flat. His promise that Job would blaspheme God hadn't come to pass, and as a reward for his endurance, Job was exalted twice as high as he was when it all began. Through the faithfulness of Job, humanity had achieved their first minor victory, dealing Satan a small but shameful defeat. But things weren't all hopeful for mankind. Though he didn't curse God, Job still had to repent for some of his conduct. He fell short and was still undeserving of God's mercy. Before a holy God, he was still covered in filthy rags. It was clear to the heavenly hosts, and especially clear to Satan, that humans had a hard time living up to their image-bearing status. Mankind was still lost, fumbling around in the dark, piecing together their own idea of what it means to obey God and reflect his image. So God revealed something to man that would help restore their relationship, and something that the devil would quickly take advantage of. Around 640 years after Job, a man named Moses was given the law by God himself, a system in which people could atone for their sins by sacrificing an animal in their place. God had offered a temporary solution to the problem of man's evil that Satan had highlighted time and time again, but it was just that, temporary. Satan knew the offering of bulls and goats was incapable of truly satisfying God's wrath and cleansing the people of sin. He knew that the millions of animals that were slaughtered every year in God's name could never validate mankind as a race. He knew that God didn't even desire the sacrifices of animals. In light of this, Satan took advantage of the new law given by God to his people and saw great success in tempting many to disobey him. Because the law illuminated the difference between good and evil, Satan knew exactly what God was pleased with and what he disapproved of. This made his job far easier, causing generations of kings to be led astray by foreign wives, unclean activities, and their own selfish pride. Once again, it seemed God's solution to mankind's problem had only served to strengthen the devil's arguments. As long as humans continued to sin, they were deserving of death. The Lord looked down from heaven on the children of man to see if there were any who understood, who sought after God, but they had all turned aside. Every one of them wandered the earth with filthy clothes. Not even one.
Sorry about that. I wanted to get in on this real quick. And let me turn off the sound I got going in the background. That had to have been distracting. I wanted to get in on this for a minute and tell you what I wanted to say real quick. Hold on a second. I got audio everywhere. That's what I get for trying to watch this with you guys. I was trying to hang out with you. So sorry about all of that messing up just then. I'll take it back just a little bit. Not that much. Right there. We'll start back there when we get back to it. Hey, Frazier. How you doing, bro? Good to see you, man. This video is awesome. I love this video. It's one of my favorites. Frazier was taking this a good video right here. It is. I really love this video. It's interesting because it's the Bible. It's got scripture. I don't know if you've noticed that right in the bottom left. There's scriptures. You can back up everything they're saying. It's just from Satan's perspective. You don't ever get the Bible that way. So this is so much better. Like for me, I love this so much better because it really explains some of the stories like Job. Like Frazier was saying, it's a big metaphor for life, right? It just all happens to Job all at once, but it is a big metaphor for life. And this video does explain things very well. I'm going to get back to the video now. I just wanted to break in because I just kind of realized how long this thing is. I think this thing's like 40 minutes long. So we don't have to watch the whole thing today, and we may not. We may just watch another about 10 minutes and then find another stopping point and do this another day, do the last half. Because I forgot how good it is. But if you want to watch the whole thing, Frazier, me and you will sit here and watch it, but it's just me and you. So let me know if you want to sit and watch it. We'll do the whole thing. I don't mind. But I'm going to start it back up. I backed it up a little to make up for the thing I messed up, so you're going to hear something again, but it shouldn't be much. We should be right where we left off. Sorry about the audio problems. I'm going to get back down here. I'll be back up in a minute. Let's get back to this video. And let me know, Frazier, are you down? Because I'll stay down. We'll keep it going. I don't know. But if you're not going to hang with me, I'm going to end early, and we'll do the rest another day. Because I got dishes to do. You know, I got things I can do here. But I can do this. I'll do this all day. I love this. You know.
Humans continued to sin. They were deserving of death. The Lord looked down from heaven on the children of man to see if there were any who understood, who sought after God. But they had all turned aside. Every one of them wandered the earth with filthy clothes. No one was righteous, not even one. More than 1,000 years after the law was instituted, a prophet named Zechariah saw something incredibly interesting. Despite playing a minor role among the prophets of old, Zechariah was one of the few humans who met one of history's most mysterious characters. A being who had appeared in glimpses to Zechariah's ancestors, a being who would play a critical role in the upcoming events, and a being who would spell disaster for Satan's accusations. A man named Joshua served as high priest at the time of Zechariah's vision. Due to their exclusive passage to God, the high priest had to follow stringent purity laws and was often considered the most holy among men. Yet Zechariah's vision opened with Joshua standing before his men and the being dressed in filthy rags. Satan appeared and started accusing Joshua before God and the being. This is the greatest among them? Even the holiest of humans is covered in filth and mud. What chance do they have in God's presence? Why don't you just destroy them already? God had heard enough. The being before Joshua rebuked the devil and silenced him. He then turned to Joshua and said to those nearby, "Take off his filthy clothes." Satan listened in utter disbelief as the being said the following words to Joshua, "I have taken away your sin, and I will put fine garments on you." But it can't be so. He's done nothing to deserve to be cleansed. If anything, he should be destroyed. But the being, ignoring Satan's accusations, said to them, "You are men symbolic of things to come. The Lord Almighty says, I will remove the sin of this land in a single day." Satan listened, baffled by the promise that was spoken. A promise that would erase all of his tireless work, all of his accusations, and all of his authority in a single day. But how is this even possible? And who is this being saying these things? The being that spoke to Joshua was known as the Angel of the Lord. For the next 500 years after Zechariah's vision, God seemed to take a back seat. From Satan's eyes, it seemed like God had run out of ideas to redeem humanity. He'd implemented animal sacrifice, he'd instituted a law to make man clean. He even purged a great number of them and started again. But none of these solutions could redeem mankind. According to God's justice, humanity should have been entirely exterminated eons ago. But according to God's mercy, humanity continued to live and multiply in their sinful state. Soon enough, God would have to decide. He couldn't claim both justice and mercy. He would have to choose one.
All right, guys, I think we're going to stop it there for now. So we're at the 18-minute, 55-second mark. Next time we'll pick up there. I think this thing's like an hour long. I think we're not even halfway done with it yet. We're like a third of the way done. So it's like 45 minutes to an hour long. This video is called Satan's Side of the Story. And you can find it on YouTube. I'll put a link to it later in the description, in the comments, and in the descriptions of the videos. But yeah, that's a really good video. Fraser was talking about how good it is. He says he has a better one. Send that to me, bro. Send that to me. If I get you like some memory stick or something like that, can you get me a bunch of cool stuff? I know you got cool stuff. If I ship you a memory stick or something, can you give me a bunch of stuff, man? A bunch of cool videos, a bunch of conspiracy type things like that? Get you a big old memory stick. Yeah, it's nice hanging out with you. I love hanging out with you. We're going to have to do another one of them feeds where me and you talk. I'm going to have to do it on my cell phone, though, because I got to use the 5G. If I try to use the Wi-Fi like I'm using on the computer right here, because it's not hardwired, it looks like crap. See, when you look at me, I look really distorted. See how blurry I am? I'm not blurry like that on my end. My camera's good. It's the feed. I don't have internet strength to do this with StreamYard. Rumble's a little better. Rumble has a studio built in, and it works a little better. But I still have this problem with being blurry. Real blurry. I've done what I can to the background. I mean, it looks how it looks. We're just low on money. But me being blurry, that has nothing to do with the camera. As you know, it's the same camera I had before. So this has been Conspiracy Theories and Chill Midday. We're going to do one of these a week. We're going to do one motivation like we did this morning, one per week, and then one main episode of Cracking the Code. We're going to just do regular feeds every Monday until we get ready for that show. We got to get a table and 2 mics. Once we get that going, me and Heather are going to do a show called Cracking the Code every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Till then, we're going to do some Conspiracy Theories and Chills each week to get her acclimated and get her used to doing this. She's never done this before, so I want to find out a way for her to get her feet wet at it. So we're going to practice each Monday, and then when we launch the new podcast, you'll know it. It'll have an intro of its own and an intro of its own, and all that'll be the same. But we're not going to do Patreon this time. You want to donate, you want to do stars, that's great. Please do. We appreciate that. And then, views and stuff like that and shares, we appreciate that. But we're not going to beg. So you'll share it if you want. You'll like it if you want. You'll donate if you want. But we're not going to beg for it. We're just going to do a quality show for you. And we're going to do it every Monday night at 7 p.m. And I'm going to do a Monday motivation for you, usually probably on Monday. And then one of these, some point during the week. I work a kind of job. I work in a deli at a grocery store. I'm just going to tell you. I'm a podcaster on the side. I work in a deli at a grocery store. So I work weird hours. So if it's on a Wednesday, it's on a Wednesday. But it'll be one of the days. We'll do one of these in the midday. Thanks for hanging out, Fraser. I'm really glad to have seen you, man. And send me some of them links then. If you got cool links that you don't think I've heard of, man, I would always love them. Just shoot them to me in the messenger, and I'll look at them, man. I love looking at conspiracies. You know I do. And I need stuff for this show. And if you would like to come on sometime and interview with me and Babos. Not Babos. Oh, my God, Heather, I'm so sorry. Anna, my baby doll. I'm so used to saying that word. Please forgive me. Now I gotta beg my wife's forgiveness because I said a name that I made up. I made up that name because her nickname was stupid. It was Beanie. And I wasn't going to say that. So I made up a word. And it just means baby. Baby. That's all it means. It's just a cute way to say baby. Babels. Right? I made it up. I made it up. Baby, I made it up. Baby, I made it up. I wasn't talking about her. All right. I'll see you guys later. I'm in enough trouble. I'll see you guys on the next one. Talk to you later, Fraser. Talk to you later, guys. Comment later if you're here. Let me know you were here. See you later, guys.